Chief Martin, would you please turn and face the audience? Chief Martin, you are now officially a member in the District of Columbia Air National Guard Chiefs Council with all the accompanying rights, privileges, and extra work. There are additional expressions or rites of passage that you will now receive commensurate with your rank. These expressions signify pride in your accomplishments and shows others that you have attained the rank of Chief Master Sergeant, something very few enlisted people ever attain. There's a DC Air National Guard Chiefs Council coin. The person who carries this coin belongs to a group representing less than 2% of the total enlisted force of the Air National Guard. As a Chief Master Sergeant, you are in very special company indeed. Chief Towns will now present you with the Chief's coin. Chief Martin, a Chief Master Sergeant should be easily recognized in any situation. It is apparent, however, that you are sorely in need of head covering at this time. Chief St. Laurent will now present you with your hat. Wear it proudly, as have many Chief Master Sergeants before you. And we made it extra, we should have made it extra small so as your head grows, as you know, while you're a chief, you know you can let it out. At this time, it is deemed appropriate that you shake hands with your fellow chiefs and accept their personal greetings. Thank you, Chief. You may take your seat. At this time, we have comments by Colonel Stamps. For a story.
Sergeant Martin, you may want to come over here so you can defend yourself. I'm going to tell some war stories on you. Chief Martin, you got me. He was trained by General Rickett. I called General Rickett Colonel at his ceremony. What I want to say about Sergeant Martin, I don't know if you got a chance to read his Chief. Just hit me in the back of the head. About Chief Martin, if you read his bio, he does a lot of things if you read it, but he is so committed to everything he does. He's known nationwide. He's known nationwide for mediation and also for equal opportunity. He's called on by all the states. He sits on the EO Advisory Committee. He's the chair of that, and he is just going full speed all the time. And when I first got in the job, I was getting calls for him to mediate all the time. So I was kind of letting him go mediate. He would be on a trip, and as General Swartz talked about earlier, about he would call him as his advisor. I got a phone call from General Swartz, and he's looking for Chief Martin. I said, hey, he's not here, sir. He's in Wyoming. Wyoming? What's he doing in Wyoming? So he's out there mediating. So he has literally called on them from all over the country to go, and now I'm to the point where he's maybe 50% of what he gets to do just because we need him here just that much. General Swartz, I'm glad you told about his photography ability. Chief Edwards and I went to the diversity conference just this week, and Chief Martin was there. Chief Martin, and I'm going to have to say Sergeant Martin because I got to tell this story. because it happened last week. Sergeant Martin was there. I get in there, we had the icebreaker. So it's all the states are there, and I sit down at the table, the chief and I did, and there's a major sitting across from me. I don't know what state he was from, and a sergeant. And Sergeant Martin had his camera. He's going about taking pictures. The major had his camera, so I could tell he was a camera buff. And he goes, hey, that's Sergeant Martin. That's Sergeant Martin. You know, and I was getting ready to say, yeah, I know him, he works for him. But he was so excited that I couldn't tell him. And he said, you know, he's a really good photographer. As a matter of fact, at the inauguration, he was taking pictures of his boss. And he got his picture, Sergeant Martin got his picture made with the president and the first lady. I said, wow. And he goes, and I don't mean just a handshake picture. I mean, he had his arms around the president and the first lady. So, just to prove it, I bought that picture with you. Here it is. And then the question that the chief and I had was, we're wondering if Chief Martin carries that in his pocket. But really, and we after going to the conference, we said he is the Gandhi of equal opportunity. I mean, people just spoke so highly of Sergeant Martin, they would come up and just say what a great job he does for all these other states. I mean, he just does an incredible job. Very, very dedicated. He is a detailed person. Got one more little detailed person war story for him. He is very detailed. When he comes in, and I know the generals will agree with this, he gives you all the facts. Really, usually you don't have a lot of questions because he covers everything in great detail. We carries that in his personal life too. When I first got in the job, I'm very, voice messages are very, I don't like them. Sergeant Martin, in his detailed mannerism, calls me and he starts out, this is Senior Master Sergeant Martin. And he goes through, I'm at mile marker 28. And he keeps going on and on. I finally figured out he's going to be late for work. So the chief is just so detailed in everything. That day I did say, just 30 seconds, tell me what to say. But Chief, you're just absolutely outstanding, and congratulations. Thank you, sir.
Sir, if you could give me this picture electronically, I'll Photoshop it and put my face up there. Chief Martin, the floor is yours.
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank everyone for taking time out of your day and coming. I see faces that I didn't expect to see, but I'm truly honored by the people who have shown up here today. I've got my family here, and what I'd like to do before I do anything else is acknowledge my family members. My wife, Barbara, I think that's about all needs to be said about her. But it's, it reminds me when I stood here and the chief gave me the chief's oath, and every time I say I do, I'm saying, but I already said that once to her, and that's the one I really meant. I'm teasing. It's, I'm saying I do to him, and in the back of my mind, I'm saying I still do to her. But Barbara and I married back in 1976, and let me introduce my family first and then tell you that. But Barbara, thank you. My son, Chris, is sitting next to her, and my daughter, Nikki, next to him, that you both met. And can you guys stand up for just a minute? I just want, and let's hold the applause to the end if we could, please. But next to Chris is our grandson, his son, Jaden, who is 2.5 years old, and then my first grandson, Christopher III, who was 12 years old yesterday, and we had a real nice birthday for him. So I won't make this a long program, but I would really like for you all to sing happy birthday to this guy. His name's Chris. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Chris. Happy birthday to you. And I forgot, last night we went out to dinner to Red Lobsters where Chris loves to eat, and the service came over and sang happy birthday to him. And his little brother doesn't like noises at all. He WEPT for a few minutes, and I almost lost it. Hi, Jaden. So go ahead and have a seat, guys, please. Thank you. I'd like to introduce also Barbara's parents, Walter and Dorothy Ruth. Walter Ruth is retired from the United States Army, 24 years. Thank you both, Mom and Dad. And I'd like to introduce you to my parents, Marion and Marion Martin and Jackie Martin. My father retired 24 years out of the Air Force and then retired again out of NSA. Barbara's father retired after the military. He was a captain at Tucson, the prison system. And then I got some people on the second row I'd like to introduce also. Gail, can you and your family stand up? These are friends of ours that are longtime friends, and I love them to death. And I just wanted to recognize you. Thank you all for being here. Tony is Barbara's sister. Tony, if you could, please. And I love her. And right next to her, Tony, thank you. I'm gonna take a minute with this one. Jackie, I call him Pete. Jackie, can you stand up with your family, please? This is my brother, Jackie Martin, and his wife, Carrie. His son standing next to him is Cameron, and his son on the end is Colin. Pete's kind of neat. Many of you have heard me talk about him in briefings that I've given, but I call him Pete. His name is Jackie. His name is Dr. Jackie Martin. He is an anesthesiologist at Johns Hopkins University, and Johns Hopkins University has had 3 African full professors in their history. Levi Watkins, who I believe invented angioplasty, was the first. The second, Dr. Ben Carson, the neurosurgeon, and my brother's the third. His wife, Carrie, is a nurse anesthetist. And for those of you who, like me, didn't know what that is, that's as big as it gets in the nursing profession. But thank you all so much for coming. And I'm going to miss some folks. I'm going to try not to. But I have Pastor Drew, Dr. Drew Schaffner, on the end, who you saw doing the penning. And next to him is Steve Shannon. I call him Steve, but he's really Colonel 06, retired Steve Shannon, who was at Walter Reed, the Chief of Physical Medicine and Rehabilitation forever. Steve and Drew, if you would please, just to be recognized. Next to them, I have David and Brenda, Marlon. David and Brenda, if you would, please. And I just want to give you your props. This program today is not about me, so it's not going to be a whole lot of me stuff. I want to tell you about some people who have impacted my life, and I want to tell you what it means to me and perhaps what it can mean to you with people in your life. David Marlin works at Walter Reed. Brenda and Barbara are best friends, but for those of you who are familiar with the PWOC, Post Women of the Chapel, Brenda is the international president of the PWOC, and I think this is your second time around, isn't it, Brenda? But thanks very much. And sitting next to her is Gwen Hubbard. I call Gwen Jean. And Gwen, if you would stand up, Gwen and I have made, we've been friends from church for a number of years. We made 3 trips to Africa together on mission trips, and she is one of the joys of my life. She is truly a remarkable woman and a great godly woman as well. Next to her, 3 of my very good friends, Alan Hebron, Tommy, and Tom. Tom Bell and Tom Kurtz. Guys, thanks so much for coming. Tom's wife, Marilyn, next to her, next to him. And Marilyn, if you could stand up. Leah Davis, Denise Davis, and Steve Davis, if you all would stand as well, please. This is my church family that I'm introducing you to now, and I'll be real quick with this. Could all the rest of my church family please stand up? Janet, I see you back there too, if you would please. Jimmy, Terry, thanks so much. And if you would, help me in welcoming all of them here today. Thanks very much. And my wife's pointing to somebody who's not sitting with the rest of the family, but I see him. Rob, would you and your wife stand, please, and your family? This is our cousins from Virginia, and Rock is, where are you, Staff Sergeant Rock? Yeah, Staff Sergeant, he's out of the military now. Thank you all for coming as well. Well, I just can't tell you how much it means to me and how much it meant to me. I went upstairs, and there were some people up there earlier. And you heard a bunch of names, but the names that you heard, and you heard titles, these are the biggest of the big, and these are names that are known throughout our United States military. But these are flag officers who have taken their time to come out, and their coming here is not the point that I want to make. It's that even when they were here, those who have since retired, they would always, and that's part and parcel of who they are and what makes them great in my life, they were always a part of what we did. And it's not the chief ceremony, it is a military person's ceremony. It is any civilian that is associated with our organization, the same thing. You were introduced to General Spooner, and Chief Edwards kindly said, and he has his wife with him, Ms. Spooner, Tess Spooner, if you would please stand for just a moment. She is also, and I know at least, the past president of the Tuskegee Airmen, East Coast chapter of the Tuskegee Airmen, that many of you may know about, and one of my mentors as well. Ma'am, thank you very much. Okay, I'm probably going to mess something up, and I'm sure I'm going to miss some folks, and when I do, as I will, please, it's one of those charge it to my head, not my heart things. I'd like to talk today about something that's very near and dear to me, and it's mentoring. This mentoring aspect is something, I don't know, mentoring and coaching are the same thing, no, drastically different. Coaching is a very structured mechanism where there are assigned times that may be given to a task. People are put or sort of may even be ordered to conduct a tasking as it relates to a subordinate or a peer. But mentoring is something that each of us very probably should want to do, something we should want to reach for. What I have found, I want to tell you a story real quick, and I hope you'll enjoy this story as much as I did. Is anybody familiar with a gentleman named Jerry Clower? Well, some of us are. Jerry Clower is affectionately called the Mouth of Mississippi. Well, he died, I guess about 5 years ago or so. But Jerry Clower tells us one story. And in this story, he says, there's a fellow named Marcel Ledbetter. And Marcel has a son named Tater. And Marcel's son Tater takes his moped out one day, and he just driving it around and went into this big Mercedes dealership, and subsequent to that, he pulled out and pulled up to a red light. Well, about that same time, a fellow pulled out this great big Mercedes, beautiful Mercedes. And Marcel's son Tater said, I'm gonna take a closer look. And he reached way close and put his nose up on the glass and just started looking, oh my goodness, I've never seen nothing so pretty as this. Looked at that dashboard, my goodness, it looked like a jet airplane. And it got so excited about it. Well, right about then, the fella noticed that he was excited about it. So he thought, well, I'm gonna show this little boy just how fast this car can take off. And when that turned green, the fella put his foot on the full gas and zoom, took right on out of there. And he just driving along, going about 60, 70 miles an hour, looks in his rearview mirror, and guess what he saw? He said, my goodness, it looked like that little boy on that moped coming after me. He said, it can't be. And about that time, right past him. He said, now I ain't believing this. I got this great big Mercedes, and that little boy on that moped done passed me. A few seconds later, the little boy's coming back at him. He said, now I know I ain't believing this. That boy done passed me again on that moped going backward. About 30 seconds later, here he comes again in the rearview mirror, gaining on him. He said, what in the world is going on? About that time, the motorcycle hit him in the cooter shell. Boom! Busted up the motor shed. The little motorbike, the little boy is laying on the pavement. He stops his car and runs out to the little boy and says, son, I'm so sorry this happened to you. Is there anything I can do to help you? And the little boy looked up at him and said, you can unhook my suspenders from your side view mirror. Well, the purpose of telling a story like that, oftentimes those stories are told and it elicits a response from the audience, favorable or otherwise. But my purpose in telling the story has to do with this mentoring piece. And sometimes what we do is we have someone who has put their faith and their trust in us, who has signed an oath of allegiance, who has said, I will surrender my free will and I will trust you to take me where I need to go. But we hold on so tight, we hook them to our side view mirror, and we just sling them around and around and around. And I'm supposed to know this stuff pretty well. 2 weeks ago, my EO specialist came down and said, "Can I talk to you?" I said, "Sure." She said, "Sergeant Martin, I am not stupid." I said, "Why don't we go sit at the table and talk for a minute?" I said, "I know you're not stupid because you wouldn't be working here." And right as I said that, I asked myself this question: "Chris, do you want to win or do you want to learn?" I said, "I want to learn." I said, "Aaron, help me to understand what happened." "Well, you seem to give me this, but then you pull it back in, and then you give me a little bit of that, but you don't give me enough that I can finish it, and then you correct me on this, and you said this, and now you're saying that." And as I was listening to her speak, I could see that little boy in that moped being slung back and forth. And I said, "Aaron, you know what? I'm sorry, I owe you an apology. You see, I'm holding on to you so tightly because I'm doing everything I can in an effort to ensure that you are successful. That was my sole intent. But in trying to do that, I was guiding her so tightly that she didn't know whether to go left or right until I told her to do that." My position to you right now is, if in fact you have someone that you mentor, if you have people that fall under your sphere of influence, there comes a point in time where we have to release them to do what they know how to do what they've been trained to do. Now the question is, do they want to be released as they're going this way, or do they want to be released as they're going this way? Well, my hopes are that we release people when they're moving in a positive direction, and until we get them moving in that direction, well, yeah, let's hold on a little tight. When somebody's not willing, somebody's not able, let's get them to